If you are born a Jewish mother in New York, Moscow, whatever, you have the right to get an Israeli citizenship upon your arrival at Ben Gurion Airport. Whereas I, myself, who was born in Palestine, my parents were born in Palestine, my great-grandparents were in Palestine, do not have that right.
Dr. Haidar Eid is a professor of post-colonial and postmodern literature at Al-Aqsa University in Gaza. He received his PhD in English literature and philosophy from the University of Johannesburg. He is one of the intellectual leaders of the global movement for Palestinian liberation.
The problem started with the signing of the Oslo Accords back in 1993, where the late president, the late chairman of the Palestinian Authority and the PLO started in a way actually fetishizing the idea of, statehood. An independent Palestinian state. And now the Palestinian Authority is still in this process of fetishization of the idea of independence. Independence of what? The two-state solution is a racist solution. Two-state solution means apartheid, because that means a Palestinian independent state for Muslims and Christians, and an Israel as a Jewish state for Jews only. In other words, this is anachronistic. Historically speaking, this is the 19th century idea. Have, nation states based on exclusive ethno-religious identities. Israel is the only power that we have in Palestine. And that is why what we are saying is that we must start fighting for civic democracy. One person, one vote. And therefore we need to come up with a democratic alternative, a secular democratic alternative. And the only secular democratic alternative that I can think about is a secular democratic state. I mean, that was the choice that South Africans, opted for. That was the choice of Northern Ireland. I mean, why when it comes to Palestinians, no, we need to, to accept the fact, Jews have historic ties. Well, we have historic ties. I mean, it is, the promised land, promised land for all of us. I think the essence of the Palestinian question is, the right of return. And what we are talking about here, we're talking about the return of more than 6 million Palestinian refugees living in the diaspora, most of whom are living, in miserable conditions. In the mid-80s, more than 75% of white South Africans voted for the apartheid system, right? And everybody was saying, I remember that very well, it is impossible for blacks and whites to live together in South Africa. The overwhelming majority of whites do not want to live with blacks. Reasons given, because blacks are violent, because blacks are dirty, because blacks are animals, all right? But the same percentage, more than 75% of white South Africans voted for the end of apartheid in 1994. Now, doesn't that raise a question? It begs for a huge question. What was the reason? I would go back to the BDS campaign when every single white South African felt ostracized whenever visiting a foreign country.
BDS, Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions, is a Palestinian-led global movement to end international state and corporate support for the Israeli government.
This is part of the promotion of civil resistance. This is what we are doing, right? A kind of promotion of civil resistance. And civil resistance means a non-violent struggle against occupation. The more you oppress black South Africans, the more ostracized you become wherever you go. Nobody wanted to buy South African products. Nobody wanted to play soccer or rugby or cricket with South African teams. Nobody wanted to shake hands with white South Africans. And that is why in 1994, they understood that, well, there got to be an end to this. When Israelis start feeling the same thing, Israel will be forced to look at the world and say, what do you exactly want? What I'm saying is that, no, you do not have two equal parties. I mean, Israel is a settler, colonialist, apartheid state, and it has to be recognized as such. And the two-state solution perpetuates that. We live in the 21st century. Northern Ireland, power-sharing government. South Africa, one person, one vote. Why not in Palestine? We need to turn the page and start talking about serious issues. Not the two-state solution, not begging Israel to put an end to its settlement policy, not begging Israel to stop expanding its settlements in those. No, finished. I'm telling you, I don't want Israel actually to remove the settlements from the West Bank. That is too radical for me. Why? Because in a one state, in a secular democratic state, these settlements, or rather those settlements, will be used by both Palestinians and Israelis. Tel Aviv will be both for Israelis and Palestinians. The democratic alternative that we are suggesting is an alternative that should be supported by liberals and lefties. If you are a liberal, I don't think that you have a problem with secular democracy. I mean, in other words, it's civic democracy. That's what you have in the United States of America. Why should you have it in the United States of America? Why should you have it in South Africa and we shouldn't have it in Palestine? I mean, if you are opposed to that, you are either an Orientalist or racist. Unfortunately, the Palestinian leadership has failed its people. I think the Palestinian people are way ahead of their leadership. The Palestinian leadership, but the discourse I'm using with you right now is not part of the mainstream discourse in Palestine, unfortunately. Neither the leadership in the official leadership in Ramallah nor the leadership in Gaza, unfortunately, understand the importance of international solidarity and the importance of the BDS campaign. We need a paradigm shift, and that paradigm shift should be accompanied by a radical change in the leadership itself. Are we fighting for an independent Palestinian state, or are we fighting for a flag and a national anthem? Unfortunately, what we have ended up with is a fight for a flag and a national anthem, and we would call that an independent Palestinian state. Even if we are allowed to have an independent Palestinian state, that does not lead to peace with justice. That does not lead to comprehensive peace. A secular democratic state is pragmatic, practical. It is the only solution that can guarantee peace with justice. And because it is a principled solution. I mean, in principle, you need to allow more than 6 million Palestinian refugees to return to their homes and towns. And practically speaking, this is the only solution that I can think about. Our struggle is universalistic. It is untribalistic. So it is one person, one vote. It's a state for all of its citizens, regardless of sex, religion, ethnicity, and so on and so forth. To me, that is the minimum that we should be fighting for.